On a frigid February night, a promising nursing student named Maura Murray crashes her car on a remote New Hampshire road. A neighbour offers to help. She refuses, saying she's already called for assistance. But when police arrive just minutes later, the car is locked and Maura Murray is gone. There were no footprints in the deep snow, no signs of a struggle, and no credible sightings of her ever again. For over 2 decades, this case has obsessed the internet. But the real key to this mystery might not be in the conflicting theories, but in the secrets Maura left behind in the days leading up to her disappearance. This is what you might not know about the disappearance of Maura Murray. Before the empty car on a snowy road, there was Maura Murray, a daughter, a sister, a gifted athlete, and a brilliant student with a clear path forward. To understand how a person can simply vanish, we first have to understand who she was. Born and raised in Hanson, Massachusetts, Maura was a star runner and a high achiever who earned an appointment to the prestigious United States Military Academy at West Point. Though she excelled, she eventually transferred to the University of Massachusetts Amherst to pursue her dream of becoming a nurse. By all accounts, she was dedicated and driven, on track to graduate and start a life of helping others. But beneath the surface of this picture-perfect life, cracks were starting to show. Maura was navigating the pressures of a demanding nursing program, a long-distance relationship, and the weight of her own high expectations. Her family described her as trusting, someone who always looked for the good in people. This portrait of a determined yet vulnerable young woman is so important because the events that unfolded in the days before she disappeared suggest a person in quiet turmoil, grappling with secrets she shared with no one. The mystery of Maura Murray doesn't begin with her disappearance. It begins with the troubling and inexplicable days that led her to that dark road in the first place. It's in these hidden moments that we find the first clues to what you don't know about her story. To understand what happened on that cold night, we have to look at the 48 hours leading up to the crash. This is where the story shifts from a simple missing person case into a complex psychological puzzle. The strange behaviour really kicks off on Thursday, February 5th, 2004, just 4 days before she vanished. While working her campus security job at UMass Amherst, Maura took a phone call that left her completely distraught. A supervisor found her in a catatonic-like state, glassy-eyed and unresponsive, just repeating the words, "My sister." The call was from her older sister, Kathleen, who was dealing with some personal issues. While Kathleen later said nothing catastrophic had happened, Maura was so shaken her supervisor had to walk her back to her dorm room. This wasn't just a bad day, it was a profound breakdown, a glimpse into a mind under immense pressure. In the days that followed, Maura's actions became less about distress and more about deliberate, silent preparation. She started methodically packing the contents of her dorm room into boxes. When police would later search it, they found most of her belongings packed away, the art taken down from the walls. On top of one of the boxes was a printed out email to her boyfriend, suggesting there was trouble in their relationship. She turned to her computer, searching for directions to the Berkshires and Burlington, Vermont, and looked into lodging, though she never booked a room. Then, on the morning of Monday, February 9th, with classes cancelled due to a snowstorm, she made her move. She sent emails to her professors and work supervisor, telling them she'd be gone for a week because of a death in the family. It was a complete lie. Her family confirmed there was no death, no funeral, no emergency. It was a story designed to buy her time. With her excuse in place, she drove off campus. She stopped at an ATM and withdrew $280, nearly all the money in her account. From there, she went to a liquor store and purchased about $40 worth of alcohol, Kahlua, vodka, and a box of wine. Security cameras from both locations confirmed she was alone. She also had accident report forms from a crash she'd been in with her father's car just 2 days earlier. At 4:37 p.m, she checked her voicemail for the last time. After that, her phone was never used again. Packing her car with textbooks, toiletries, clothes, and the alcohol she had just bought, Maura Murray drove north toward the White Mountains of New Hampshire, into the fading light of a winter afternoon. She had told no one where she was going, and she was heading toward a fate that remains one of America's most enduring mysteries. At approximately 7:27 p.m. on a sharp, unlit hairpin turn on Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire, Maura Murray's black satin sedan slid off the road and into a snowbank. It wasn't a catastrophic wreck, but the car was disabled and its airbags deployed. A local school bus driver, Butch Atwood, was heading home when he came upon the scene. He pulled over and asked the young woman behind the wheel if she needed help, if he should call the police. Maura, who seemed cold but uninjured, reportedly refused his offer. She claimed she had already called AAA for roadside assistance, a claim that was almost certainly untrue, since there was no cell service in that remote area. She pleaded with him not to call the police. Unsettled, but respecting her wishes, Atwood drove home, just a short distance down the road. Once there, he decided to call 911 anyway, reporting the accident at 7:43 p.m. At 7:46 p.m, a Haverhill police officer arrived at the crash site. In the few minutes that had passed since Butch Atwood spoke to her, Maura Murray had vanished. The car was locked. Inside, her things seemed to be waiting for her. The box of wine was on the passenger seat, and a Coke bottle appeared to hold a mixed drink. Her backpack, her college textbooks, and her favourite stuffed animal were all there. But several key items were gone. Her wallet, her ID, her credit cards, and her cell phone. None have ever been found. There were no footprints leading into the deep snow surrounding the road. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, nothing to indicate violence or a frantic escape into the woods. It was as if she had been there one moment and had simply been plucked from the earth the next. The officer was faced with a chilling scene: an abandoned car, a collection of personal items, and a missing driver who had disappeared into the freezing night air without a trace. In the critical first hours and days, the official response was shaped by a crucial assumption. Police initially treated Maura's case as someone who had voluntarily walked away. Believing she was a troubled young woman who wanted to disappear, they didn't issue a "be on the lookout" report until the following afternoon, nearly 18 hours after she was last seen. As her frantic family arrived in New Hampshire, the search finally began to escalate. Search teams and tracking dogs were brought in. It was here that one of the most perplexing clues of the entire case emerged. The dogs picked up Maura's scent at the crash site and followed it for about 100 yards east down Route 112, where the trail just stopped in the middle of the road. This suggested she didn't wander into the woods, but likely got into another vehicle, either willingly or by force. This detail completely changed the complexion of the case. The search expanded into one of the largest in New Hampshire history. Helicopters with thermal imaging cameras scanned the vast, dense forests. Ground teams and cadaver dogs scoured the landscape for miles. Despite these exhaustive efforts, they found nothing. No scrap of clothing, no backpack, no sign that Maura had ever set foot off that road. The woods, it seemed, were keeping their secrets. 10 days after her disappearance, the FBI joined the investigation. Hopeful leads turned into dead ends. Her bank accounts were never touched. Her credit cards were never used. As days turned into weeks, the terrifying possibility of foul play or a fatal accident in the wilderness became the two dominant and equally frightening scenarios. For over 20 years, three main theories have been debated by investigators, her family, and an army of online sleuths. Each is compelling and each is deeply flawed. First, there's the theory that Maura succeeded. She voluntarily disappeared to start a new life. The evidence for this is hard to ignore. She packed her things, including her college textbooks. She withdrew a significant amount of cash. She lied to her professors to create a week-long window where she wouldn't be missed. The internet searches for directions to Vermont and lodging options further support the idea she was planning an escape. Some have even speculated she might have been dealing with a secret pregnancy, pointing to her internet search history about the effects of alcohol on a fetus. Perhaps she felt trapped and saw running away as her only option. But this theory unravels quickly. If her goal was a clean getaway, why crash her car on a remote road? And more importantly, how has a smart, resourceful woman stayed completely off the grid for 2 decades, never once accessing her bank accounts, using her social security number, or contacting anyone from her old life. Vanishing so completely is almost as mysterious as the disappearance itself. The second theory is foul play. This theory hangs on that scent trail ending abruptly in the road. It suggests she accepted a ride from someone, either a passing predator or someone she had arranged to meet. The isolation of Route 112, the darkness, and her vulnerable state would have made her an easy target. Her sister Julie believes this is the most likely scenario, that she got into a car with the wrong person. The missing phone and wallet could have been taken by an abductor to prevent her from being tracked. However, like the first theory, this one suffers from a complete lack of physical proof. There were no signs of a struggle at the crash site. No credible witnesses reported seeing another car stop. No evidence has ever surfaced to point to a specific person. Despite decades of investigation, it remains a theory built on absence. Finally, there is the simplest and perhaps most tragic explanation. She was lost to the elements, disoriented and possibly intoxicated after the crash. Panicked about police getting involved, Maura could have run into the dense woods to hide, only to get lost and succumb to the brutal, freezing temperatures. This would explain her refusal of help and her quick departure from the scene. But this theory is haunted by one giant question. Where is she? The area was searched extensively by teams with thermal imagers and cadaver dogs, which are trained to find remains even years later. Yet not a single shred of evidence, no clothing, no bones, nothing has ever been found. If Maura Murray was lost to the elements, the wilderness has guarded her secret with impossible perfection. Maura's case was one of the first to explode in the age of the internet. From the earliest days, online forums were filled with amateur detectives dissecting every clue. This digital obsession brought huge attention to her disappearance, but also created a storm of misinformation and conspiracy theories that has been deeply painful for her family. Podcasts have kept her story in the public eye, re-examining evidence and interviewing key figures. And through this relentless public focus, small but tantalizing clues have emerged. A few months after she vanished, a contractor came forward. On the night of the disappearance, between 8 and 8:30 p.m, he saw a young person walking quickly along Route 112, about 4 to 5 miles east of the crash site. He didn't report it at the time, only realizing its significance later when reviewing work records. Was this Maura? If so, where was she going? More recently, a significant development brought a new name into the investigation. In 2024, it was revealed that a fingerprint found inside Maura's car matched a man named Stephen Baldwin, a fellow cadet from her time at West Point. Baldwin, currently in prison for unrelated felonies, had a past relationship with Maura at the academy. When questioned by the FBI, he claimed the fingerprint could have been from swapping CDs years earlier and denied any involvement in her disappearance. It's a forensic link that places him inside her car at some point, a new thread in a case full of them. After more than 20 years, Maura Murray's disappearance is officially considered suspicious. Her family has never stopped searching for answers, enduring the nightmare of not knowing. The story that began with a troubled young woman and a car crash in the snow has become a labyrinth of secrets, false leads, and enduring questions. Did she run away? Was she taken? Or did she simply wander into the woods and vanish from the world? The truth is, someone out there might know something. Someone saw a car that night, or a young woman walking on the road, or heard something that seemed insignificant at the time. The smallest detail could be the key. If you have any information about the disappearance of Maura Murray, please contact the New Hampshire State Police Cold Case Unit. What do you think happened on that lonely stretch of Route 112? Share your respectful theories in the comments. For Maura's family, the search for answers isn't about sensationalism, it's about bringing their daughter home. And until that day comes, her story will remain one of the most haunting and unsolved mysteries of our time. Enjoyed the video? Support the channel on Patreon. If you want early releases, behind the scenes content and bonus deep dives, click the link in the description and join our community over on Patreon. Your support helps me keep creating the videos you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.